Thank you all so much for coming. This is going to be a fun one. Then we'll just kind of wait for a few more people to come on in. I hope everyone's having a great Thursday. Again, thank you so much for attending this one. Hi, everyone. I've just opened up the chat here just to see what's going on. Amazing. Hello from LA. Amazing. I'm actually in Canada right now. Napa Valley, beautiful. Okay. So I'm actually in Alberta, Canada, Calgary, Alberta. Yeah. It's going to be snowing out soon, so that's always not the most exciting. No way, Tammy. That's amazing. That's so fun. What a small world. I love it. Hemlane brings everyone together, and that is why we love it. So, do you know what? I'm just going to get started now. People could still trickle in as we're getting going, but I'm just going to start the webinar. So, my name is Chloe, and today's webinar is Turnover Time. Let self-guided tours do the work. And again, my name is Chloe. I'm on the leasing coordinator team here at Hemlane, and I'll be walking you through our whole process of self-guided tours. And I will say at the very end, we will do a Q&A. So if you wanted to hold all of your questions till the end, I will also have one of our AEs on here as well. So if there's any sales questions that you may have, you could pop those in the chat at the end as well. Okay, so first off, I just want to test our leasing knowledge. How comfortable are you with self-guided tours? A, very comfortable, B, hesitant, or C, not comfortable at all. So if you just want to click what best suits you for today, I'm going to click very comfortable. No, I actually cannot vote. But let's just put that all in the poll there. Okay. Perfect. And so then we're going to do another poll. Oh, hesitant. Okay, do you know what? This is great. This is why we are here. We are learning about self-guided tours. So that hesitancy will completely go away after this, I hope. Okay, perfect. So actually, let's go back here. What percent of renters do you think prefer self-guided tours? 33%, 51%, or 62%? So if you wanted just to answer that question as well. Okay, so we'll wait for the answer. 62%. Okay, you guys are very smart because that is exactly the number is 62%. And so with that, why do we even offer self-guided tours? They increase your viewings by up to 40%. They're 25% faster in the lease signing process, and 85% of tenants expressed a higher level of satisfaction. And there's a 30% reduction in operational costs, ultimately saving you money as the property owner. So once we saw the data of 62% of renters actually prefer self-guided tours, it was absolutely a no-brainer for us at Hemlane to implement that into our platform here. So with self-guided tours, there are different types of locks that we recommend to use throughout your journey with us. So what three types of locks for self-guided tours would you need? There's the non-digital lock, which is less safe. There's only one access code, and that does not change. It'll be the same code for every showing attendee. And that's, again, not the most safe. There's the digital lockbox, which is more safe because you get a unique code for every showing attendee that comes. But ultimately, because they do open, the keys could get lost. And then there's the digital lock, which is the most expensive because there's Bluetooth unless there's Wi-Fi available. Providers of these locks. So the non-digital lockbox, you kind of get that anywhere. They're the run-of-the-mill average one. So it's Amazon, Home Depot, anywhere like that. The digital lockbox is through CodeBox, Sentry Locks, or Igloo. And then the digital lock is through Yale as well as Igloo. So at Hemlane, what we use is a digital lockbox. With digital lockbox, we have teamed up with CodeBox because they're easy to install, they're affordable, there's no Wi-Fi required, and we have fewer access issues while using CodeBox. And like I mentioned, Hemlane is partnered with CodeBox, and you would get a discounted rate for each CodeBox, and we would actually pay your $2 a monthly activation cost during your tenant placement process. And the beauty with these lock boxes, if you wanted to go ahead and come on our tenant placement program, once we give you that lock box, it's yours. You could use it and transfer it between any other property that you may have. So it's a one-time purchase, then you'll have it forever. So of course, there's always potential issues that can arise. The number one reason for lockbox issues, especially with the CodeBox ones that we use at Hemlane, is the batteries. It is battery powered, and those batteries need to be replaced every 8 to 9 months. If there's any issues, the first form of troubleshooting would always just be replacing that battery. And with the lockbox, like I said, you could use it for any other property that you may have. So it's easy to transfer through. First thing, if you are transferring it, I would always recommend just to change out those batteries right away. So again, the self-guided tours, it all comes back to safety. And with any type of vacancy, there's always risks. That's with both self-guided or in-person led tours. Our goal always is to mitigate this risk. So I'll just show you how we do that at Hemlane. Lots of times you're not local to your property. You may be in a different state, but you want to use our services. Are you required to be local? Absolutely not, which is great. You are not required to be local, but what we do recommend is always having a second set of keys in a backup lockbox. That's where there's those basic kind of contractor's lockbox that you could have just with a second set of keys, just in case maybe those batteries aren't changed or the lockbox does malfunction. You always have that set of reassurance. We do recommend knowing your neighbors or someone else local to the property to have them potentially have a second set of keys. That way, again, it's a second set of eyes on your property and could always help out with any potential issue at a showing. And ideally, we'll price your rental so you have more than one showing a week. And actual showing attendees are the best second set of eyes out there and will let us know if there's anything a little fishy happening at a property. So at Hemlane, we have a strong process for our self-guided tours. And I'll just walk you through that right now. With Hemlane, we do not price above market rate because the longer your property is vacant, the more money you are losing. So vacancy will cost you more ultimately. We do not mention self-guided tours in your ads. With that, it's all about safety. So no one will know that there isn't going to be anyone else there. So that way we'll always kind of keep that on the down low for you. Our team will reach out immediately to prospective tenants with a personal touch. It is humans on the other end of any phone call, any message that they are getting to make sure that they are enjoying their tour, that they have locked up the property, and any feedback that needs to be relayed to the property owner after the showing. And before the prospective tenant and showing attendee comes out for a tour, we pre-qualify the tenants with our objective criteria, which is income, credit, do they have pets, and have they already applied for this property? We also use a biometric face scan to ID the tenant's faces before showing. And we are always present during the showings via text and phone. So one of our showing attendees will start messaging the showing attendee pretty much close to an hour before, just reminding them of their tour, being there to answer any questions that they may have, and just to ensure that it all goes smoothly. And as always, we'll follow up with the tenants for feedback and make any adjustments with the property owner if necessary. So there are also instances when maybe a self-guided tour just won't work for your property. Lots of times that happens with furnished rentals. Of course, you could still do them, but what we see if it's a long-term rental, furnished rentals for our self-guided tours, it's just more, it just is a little bit scarier just with having actual things in the house and not having it completely vacant. If it is almost like traveling nurses or just not a long-term rental, of course, furnished is still fine. If there's restrictive homeowners association rules, that's always a tough one for self-guided tours as well, especially if there's potentially in a gated community with self-guided tours, people coming in and out. They are still doable. There's just a little extra admin on the back end that we're definitely happy to cover. And of course, too, in high crime areas, it's always a little scary to do a self-guided tour in maybe a high crime area, but they're still doable. With that, we go back to knowing your neighbors or knowing someone local to the property that maybe they're able to drive by just a few times a week and check on the property to make sure everything is running smooth and that the property still looks immaculate. And if your rental is maybe one of those, if it's furnished, if it's in a maybe a high crime area, and it's just maybe not qualified for a self-guided tour, at Hemling, we also have a local agent program that you could definitely request as well. So how could we help with this process? Again, the Hemling process is quite streamlined, ultimately for success at the end of the day. We will market your rental to all of the top listing sites at premium. So that'll be Zillow, Trulia, Redfin. All of them will be listed as premium listings with us. So most amount of eyes will be seeing your property. We qualify inquiries based on the objective criteria, credit, background, income reports will all be completed. We will coordinate and set up showings so you don't have to deal with the in between. We will deal with all of the inquiries, supplemental documents, post showing, the entire application process. We will provide access as well as support during the showings. If there's any questions, one of our showing attendees is there for a phone call, for a text, so we could quickly negate any issue. And of course, we confirm the application is complete. And as mentioned previously, that is the credit report, our screening of background, as well as income reports. We also allow you to approve the applicant at the end of the day. The property owner has full control over the applicant. So once we find a qualified applicant for you after receiving all of the documents needed, then we'll pass it off to the property owner for the final approval. And the beauty with Hemlane is we have state-specific lease templates in our Hemlane portal, making it super simple to provide a lease and get that out to the tenant sooner. We are committed to you. As the property owner on the leasing side, we will set up weekly strategy calls with you. If that is to think of a move-in incentive, if it's to think of maybe a reduction, if it's allowing pets, changing the credit, we are working with you to find a qualified tenant as fast as we can for your property. Our leasing team works 7 days a week, so you could always get in contact with someone. If it's from showings, a general question about leasing, someone will be there to help you. And again, these are real humans assisting you. And that way it's more personal touch, and we genuinely care about you as the property owner, as well as finding you a qualified tenant for your property. As previously mentioned, once you work with Hemlane, we advertise your rental and elevate it with one click, advertising to 15 plus premium listing sites at absolutely no extra cost to you. So Zillow, Redfin, Trulia, all of the top ones, your ad will be premium. Like I said earlier, most amount of eyes will be on your property. Safety is the number one priority when it comes to self-guided tours, and we take that very seriously. So that's why our pre-screening and safety protocol is super important. And we prioritize tenant and property safety always. We qualify the tenant based on objective criteria before they even schedule a showing. Our tour attendees must provide a government-issued photo ID, as well as that biometric face scan before even coming and being accepted to view your property. So, coordinating self-guided tours. Like I mentioned, we are working 7 days a week for you and your property. And one of our dedicated showing coordinators will respond to tenant inquiries 7 days a week and be on the phone and text during the tour. Half an hour before this tour is scheduled, one of our showing attendees will reach out to the showing attendee, letting them know the process. Once the showing attendee gets to the property, they will then take a photo of that lockbox with the serial number. So we know they are exactly where they are supposed to be and that they're at the correct property. Once we receive that serial number, we will then submit them a one-time unique access code that can never be used again. So, showing your rental remotely. The digital lockbox, i.e. the code box that we have teamed up with, will be installed on site, allowing verified tenant access during the designated time slots. Each viewing requires proper identification and uses a unique access code. We do not advertise this as a self-guided tour. So with the approval process, the property owner's the final approval at the end of the day. Tenants will go through a comprehensive application, completing a credit, background, eviction, and income verification process. The property owner remains in full control, selecting the approved applicant. All of the required documents are submitted. Preparing your lease, Hemlane makes it easy. You could select your own template, or if you have one, you could upload your own, but in our Hemlane portal are state and country specific templates. Our lease template automatically imports everything from applications provided, tenant application information. And our software will also be able to prorate the rent and calculate fees, making it super simple. How successful are self-guided tours? The most popular times for tours, the results may surprise you. So I'll have you kind of take a look at this chart here and just see every single day there are people coming. Obviously, weekends, end of day on Thursdays, there is a little bit more traction, but still we are seeing that what people are wanting is a tour available 7 days a week. And that's what's unique with Hemlane and why it's definitely ideal to work with us. Like I mentioned, 7 days per week for showings. That way we could close the qualified tenants faster by getting that quick turnaround time. 25% reduction of days on market, which is ultimately saving you money because vacancy is costing you money at the end of the day. And we want to keep those days on market as low as possible. What customers and tenants are saying about self-guided tours. This is from a showing attendee. They said, I really like this system. It's very efficient. And that's been the general feedback that we've had from showing attendees. It's quick, it's easy, and they're able to book a tour when it works best for them. So this all sounds appealing. How would you get started? Right in your Hemlane portal, you would just request a tenant placement in your dashboard. So you'd log in on the left-hand side, you'd see services, you just click there, and then you would click onto tenant placement, fill your vacancy. So we have a whole bunch of other services as well that we can help you with, not only the tenant placement. The tenant placement fee is $595. And with that, we are marketing your entire process of your property. Again, we're dealing with the inquiries, the applications, the showings, getting all the supplemental documents that need to be uploaded from each prospective tenant. And we just are coordinating the whole process for you 7 days a week. If you are not local to the property and you don't really know how your previous tenant left the space, we also have a move out inspection report. That is $300, and it's a comprehensive condition report from a licensed inspector. It's a nice report, general report of interior, exterior, showing any maintenance or repairs that need to be done. They will go through the HVAC system and note anything that will need to be maintained before your property is rent ready. That now brings me to the rent ready. It is $495, and that is our coordination fee to find a local service provider to make your property ready between tenants. And if you want it all and you want a more hands-off approach and we could just handle it, it's our full leasing plus bundle, and that is $12.95. So there are some frequently asked questions throughout our process with Hemlane. How much does the lockbox cost? So our code box is $100 for the digital lockbox, and you get to keep that for your next turnover, like I mentioned previously. So it's a one-time fee of $100, but then that lockbox is yours. Ultimately, just changing those batteries every 8 to 9 months. So who installs this lockbox? You are definitely able to install the lockbox, or we can have a local service provider come out and install the lockbox for you if you are not local to the property. And that typically is between $75 to $175, just depending on the region. Can the lockbox be transferred to another rental? Absolutely. Once you have that lockbox, you could use it between all of your rental properties. After you have filled the vacancy at one rental, you could transfer the lockbox to another. And how do you verify a tenant before the tour? Security is of the utmost importance to us at Hemlane, and we take it super seriously. So every tenant must provide a government issued ID and go through our verification process with that biometric face scan information to confirm their identity. Now I am done chatting. So if you have any questions, by all means, please put them in the chat box, and myself and our sales associate Logan would be happy to help. Okay. I'm just looking through the questions here. Okay. So the digital lockbox that Hemlane recommends, we use CodeBox. Co-living spaces, we could, those ones are tough. Hemlane doesn't normally deal with a co-living situation. Is this an option? Sorry, I'm just going through everything here. So yes, the code for the lockbox does change for each viewing. And actually, a lot of our showing coordinators are able to speak Spanish. So you're asking, do you have Spanish speaking coordinators? We do. And a lot of times they have kind of taken over that process just to go back and forth with the showing attendee a little bit better.
And then just to jump in here about the co-living with the lockbox technology can get a little bit challenging just because there's going to be multiple tenants in the property. So it can be a little bit inconvenient in that sense. So we always recommend if you're using Hemlane and you have a co-living situation and you need to fill vacancies, just work with somebody local on the ground that can handle the showings for you. Friend, relative, great. Agents are kind of hit and miss with co-living. Oftentimes they won't take it on. But then again, it's very much dependent on the state you're in and the agent and the quality.
I'm just going through these questions again. If we only want the self-guided tours part of the service, that would still be part of our tenant placement. So that is $595 plus that $100 for the lockbox. But again, that is the one-time fee. And we have Hemlane approved local agent. So that is something that you're interested in for your property. Instead of requesting a tenant placement, you could just go ahead and request local agent, and our team will be more than happy to assist if that's something you're a little bit more comfortable with. And Hemlane is only in the US, not in Canada. Yeah. So I'll just keep opening up the questions here to see if there's anything else. Yeah, does the code on the lockbox change for each viewing? Yes, it does. Yes, correct. The fees are all one time. So it's a one-time tenant placement, inspection, rent ready, whatever you would like. So that's a great question, Steve, how to make sure the place is locked afterward, after the showing. So our showing coordinators will be texting the showing attendee, the prospective tenant that is at the property throughout the tour, and always will be sending them a message about 5 minutes before their tour ends. I actually didn't mention this earlier in the presentation, but each self-guided tour is for 30 minutes. So they're scheduled for 30 minutes to see the property. 15 minutes into the tour, once we have confirmation that they're in attendance, our showing coordinator will message them a reminder to lock up everything, turn off the lights, close the windows, close the blinds, whatever they've maybe opened throughout the tour. And then at the end of the tour, we require a photo sent to us of a closed lockbox with the keys placed inside just to ensure safety. And there has been numerous times where maybe a tenant has not closed it up, but they've had to come back to the property, take that photo because, again, safety is the most important. We don't do FaceTime videos during the showing. It would just be a voice call and text.
And Dartmoor, just to answer your question on the rent ready fee and if that is inclusive of the actual repair costs, it is not, just to be clear there. It gives you obviously access to our coordination team as well as access to our local repair people that we have on the ground as well.
And Kay, of course, how can we make sure that no one stays in the house after the tour? This is why showing attendees are truly the best set of eyes that you could have, are people coming to your property and seeing if someone has stayed or a door is unlocked or a window is open, just to ensure safety. And if that happens, we'll pause tours and have the property owner or whoever they're using local to help deal with that situation. The owner, so as the property owner with Hemlane, you're able to be as hands-on or hands-off throughout the process that you want to be truly. So I know some of our property owners are kind of texting and emailing back and forth with prospective tenants with any questions that they can answer if one of our leasing coordinators didn't get to it first. So yeah, as the property owner, you could participate, but ideally we participate just through the Hemlane portal, just answering any questions. Absolutely. So if you are still interested and kind of wanted to move forward, here is our couple of QR codes that you're able to scan. If you're interested in Hemlane, you get an overview on our services. Feel free to scan the code on the left to book a demo. And if you're already on Hemlane and you want to schedule a tenant placement consult and you loved the self-guided tour aspect, by all means, scan the code on the right and you will get $25 off if you just mentioned this webinar. So thank you all so much. If there's any other questions, but I really appreciate you all taking the time.